Welcome back to another weekly GMBN Tech show.
On the show this week, we have loads of new gear from Nukeproof.
And some flat pedals from Thang.
As well as some enduro accessories from Moella.
And some limited edition stuff from POC. Okay, so straight into news, and we got some new components from Nukeproof. Now, of course, they're well known in the realms of the Mega, of course, for their Mega bike. They've got the Reactor and they've got the Scout, but they also make a really cool range of accessories. They've had a bit of help from the way from Sam Hill, of course. Now, this is their new Enduro saddle, and this is Sam's particular design, which is quite unusual. So you might notice it's got a very short nose on the front, so that's definitely down to climbing position, but no doubt there's got to be something about long-term saddle comfort in that. I mean, you think of an enduro race, you're going to be in the saddle for anything around 7 hours. You're definitely going to know if a saddle's not that comfortable. What do you think of this, Henry? It looks a bit familiar to me.
It does look oddly familiar. And I think what's really cool about that chain reaction team is the riders seem to be given lots of freedom for things, personal choices. And similar after that, obviously Sam's tried different saddles from different brands, and then Nukeproof has said, well, now we've garnered that information, what can we make for you particularly? And I think it looks really, really good. I actually saw Dale, he came over for a ride quite a long time ago, and he was on an early prototype of this saddle a little while ago, one of the designers at Nukeproof. And it ticks all the boxes really, doesn't it? That relief channel, which is very popular with some, and no sharp edges or lines, which is a lesson you only have to learn once. If you've got a more kind of road style saddle and you go into the back of it and you only need to learn that lesson once.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really like the shape of it, actually. The lack of edges on there has got to be a good thing for no hookups too. And that short nose must be great for climbing, being able to get on the front with no sort of nudge in too hard on the undercarriage. It's got to be a good thing. Yeah,
and I think it looks really good, and actually kind of complements Nukeproof quite expanding range now. They've got so much stuff now, and they did that copper things you've got on your bike, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the stem in particular, I'm a massive fan of that.
Yeah.
It's basically a perfect stem visually from what I want. And of course, they've got that new range, the Sam Hill range, which is all oil slick. So expanding on the range of things they've already got, including chain guides, bottom brackets, seat clamps, handlebar grips, pedals, and you can get all this stuff now in the oil slick, which, I don't know, a lot of people have oil slick. I'm still a fan of the copper, although I do suspect going to need to change soon, because I'm starting to see a lot of people running that.
Yeah, no, it's becoming really, really popular, especially if you can match up with that Eagle drivetrain. Now, another brand that has brought out some new equipment this week, as I casually lean off screen and drag in a box, is some new equipment from the kind of, to roadies, they'd say this was a household name look, but less perhaps prevalent in mountain biking. But I think that's kind of going to change if they carry on making the mountain bike products, because they've come out with these new trail rock pedals, which are kind of more of what you kind of expect from a flat pedal mountain biking shoe. But interestingly enough, and the thing that's really got our tongues wagging, is their other style pedals, which is their kind of more, I suppose, kind of urban or city range. So this is their kind of grip offering, so which means basically they've taken that Vibram material, which you'd very commonly find on the bottom of the shoe, and they've put it on the pedal, which begs the question, Doddy, have we been doing it the wrong way around all this time? Should we have been putting the super sticky stole on the pedal?
Do you know, I saw the images of these earlier on, and I actually thought it was a bit of a joke at first. But actually, for the commuter market and for slightly less threatening riding, I think it's a brilliant idea. Well, I mean, it's not going to clearly work in an off-road environment where you need like maximum grip.
Yeah.
But it's got to be quite a good example of how to do things alternatively, I think.
Totally, and I think as well, if you're someone that does have that kind of middle ground bike, that you might do a bit of off-roading on it, but maybe not huge amounts. But sometimes a metal pedal on like a soft kind of plimp sole style shoe, as it were, can actually be really uncomfortable. And I think a bit more compliance in a pedal that has a bit of rubber on it could actually be a really, really good thing. And it saves chewing through. If you've ever kind of ridden those really thin skate shoes on pins, they can pretty much, it goes through them like a hot knife through butter. And
oh yeah, definitely. You get the old monkey feet as well, just, nothing works quite well. So it's a good point actually, saying about the sort of the comfort aspect from it. That's a really good point.
And so they've also got this is the Trail Rock, which like I said is the more kind of what you typically expect from an off-road shoe. So the platform is 110 by 110. It's got a chromoly spindle, 2 cartridge bearings and a bushing in each pedal to ensure kind of smooth running reliability. So like I said, these ones I'm sure are what people expect from a flat pedal. But the other ones are a bit of a curveball, but I do think they're very interesting.
Yeah, I think they look great, and it's actually a bit surprising from time. I mean, they make some great clipless pedals. We've had a good look at those before on Tech. In fact, if you want to see those, there's going to be a link underneath. But I was genuinely surprised to see them expanding out into the flat pedal world, which means they might be doing more things around the corner.
Yes, who knows?
Yeah, interesting stuff. Now for something a little bit different, we obviously run POC helmets here at GMBN, and probably the most famous person to run a POC helmet will be Fabio Wibmer. Now, he's on nearly 5.5 million, I think it's 5.5 million subscribers. Yeah, it's just insane. So I guess that puts him as probably one of the big, well, in mountain biking at least, the biggest household names. He's out there. So POC are a very stylish brand, as well as making stuff that's really safe. Now, you might have noticed in a lot of his videos, he's pretty much just wearing jeans and a casual top. Yep. He's done the downhill in Paris. He's done loads of cool stuff, and he looks pretty much like he's dressed to go to the pub at the end of the day, but he's got to have some protection as well. So he's teamed up with POC, and he's got this limited edition range. So he's got the Air knee pads, and they use that VPN stuff in it, which is really flexible, but firms up when you hit it hard, so it actually gives you the protection you need. But the key thing on these is the fact you can put them on under a pair of jeans, and the elbow pads again under a regular top, so you don't necessarily look like you're wearing loads of armour. The helmet though is pretty much the standard Tactile edition, except it's got really cool graphics on here. As you can see, it's black and gold, it's kind of quite stylish. And they've got the glasses as well, although I've got to say, I don't think you're ever going to see much use of these in the UK. I tend to ride in clear glasses because the weather's normally pretty crap. But they're nice all the same. Nice to see that mountain biking is starting to get some sort of influencers doing like quite fashionable ranges as well as just the outright tech stuff. I think it's cool because they'll sell a lot of stuff for that. Yeah,
totally. I mean, I think Fabio is definitely one of those kind of, you see it in so many sports, don't you? Like the Tony Hawk figure that takes it from the fringe into the mainstream.
Like absolutely, kind of that's a great example.
And I think Fabio, along like Danny Mac as well, and it's funny, they're taking this kind of these trials riders, and it's funny because a lot of mountain bikers don't do trials, but it's something that lends itself so well to the mass market appeal in these videos. And I think it's so funny that it I think it distorts what people expect mountain biking to be in a way.
100%, I completely agree with you, and it's a great example because I've always been fascinated with Chris Ackrig's style of riding, but perhaps his style of riding is so technical and such a rider's way of riding that it's often missed, whereas Danny is definitely tuned in to what average Joe will see and just think, you can't do that on a bike.
Yes,
that's
totally.
just begs belief. Well, and it's a very unique thing to be able to do, I think.
Yes, totally, and it very much doesn't need any explanation as well. But something that we saw last, or 2 weeks ago now at the EWS, was the new Rocky Mountain Altitude, the 29er. So this was kind of well hidden, both figuratively in the fact that a similar shape of bike has been around in 27.5 for a while, and literally because they wrapped it in digicamo to try and sneak it through the cameras without anyone really distinguishing what it was. So now we have all the details. So it's got what I would kind of term smart sizing, although I believe that might be a specialised term from a few years back. And what I mean by that is the small is 27.5 only, the medium gives you the choice of either wheel size, and then when you go into the large and XL, it is 29 only. Interestingly enough as well, with the small, it actually has a slightly different shape to the front triangle to try and enhance as much standover clearance as possible, which I think is definitely a good thing. Now it comes with the Ride 9 geometry adjustment, which is kind of Rocky Mountain's way of giving you 9 different positions or kind of orientations of the flip chips, but it kind of boils down to the similar choices, longer or lower or a bit steeper or a bit slacker. Now this bike also comes with adjustable chainstay length, so you've got 10mm to play with there. And interestingly enough, I don't know if you saw this, Doddy, it comes with removable shock mounts on that underside of the top tube, which either lends itself to different maybe shock stroke length tunes at some point, or maybe even that's a way that they're going to kind of approach the mullet problem, or the mullet problem I call it, the mullet conundrum that bike manufacturers are having to be. We've seen this with a couple of brands. They're really having to think about how to, I suppose, protect themselves in the future if this mullet thing really does take off by building in some adjustment.
Yeah, I think it's a smart idea to not be so short-sighted and not save it as well. I think if the bike is capable of having the option. I think that people are going to want that option, whether the top pros use that or not.
Yes.
It's irrelevant. Having a choice has got to be a good thing. I think I didn't notice that actually about the removable shock mount. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and they've done an incredibly tidy job of it. But this is something we used to see sometimes, with the old Cannondales, I believe, and well, so many different bikes. They would have, now they look, dare I say it, a bit kind of crude and just like someone's had at the frame with a drill, but loads of different shock mounts and different options, and it's interesting to see it potentially come back. Now, as for the numbers themselves, it's based around a 170 fork and 160mm on the back. In its neutral setting, so it can go half a degree either way from this, it comes with a 65-degree head angle or 76-degree seat tube angle, and the reaches for the small is 423, then 449, 475, all the way up to 504 for the extra large. And I think
big sizing for Rocky. They've normally been on a modest size.
Yeah, it really
good.
is. It really is. And I think it's, well, it certainly is no slouch, as proved by Jesse Melamed just last weekend. But yeah, I think it looks a really tidy bike, eh?
Yeah, it looks good. It's also interesting, I think, you're saying about the 65-degree head angle on it. We're seeing, a lot of brands going quite a lot slacker than that. And, I don't think you always need to. Slack does work, but obviously as they've proven here with this. So is it a plus minus half a degree, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so down to 64.5. So,
yeah.
Which seems to be about the magic number for a lot of brands, I think, 64, 64.5.
I think it's just so interesting that, those Polar numbers of a couple of years ago, which, people did kind of balk at, think of bloody hell, 63.5 on an enduro bike. But now people are getting there, and I wonder if there's going to kick on again. And I dare I say it, I wonder if we're going to start seeing, 62-ish, 60 in the more radical itinerations,
Yeah.
I wonder where it's going to go. I think it's really interesting. But yeah, 64.5 does seem to be the settled and accepted realm for enduro bikes now, I suppose.
Yeah, it's amazing what becomes normal. And speaking of what becomes normal in enduro, and that's strapping loads of stuff to your bike.
Yeah.
Now we've both sort of laughed at this, I think, over the last couple of years of just the sheer amount of stuff that you can bolt to a bike, but for good reason in racing, because you need fast access to it. Now, at the weekend, we put a video out on Tech about loads of cool places you can store stuff on your bikes. And actually, this product turned up at my house today. I missed the video, but it's kind of really cool. So it's by a company called Mule. Now, the product is called Mayday, and it's all about fixing your bike on the fly. So you've got this cool little magnetic rubber pod, I guess you'd call it, that goes on your bars, and you can fit on the inside there one of the tubeless repair plug kits with the magnet fitting, basically. So it's not going to vibrate out. It's a really strong magnet, as you obviously can't see on camera here. And you can also fit some chain master links straight in there as well, so you don't have to go faffing for them, which I think is a genius idea. Really nice little bit of kit. And they've also got one that you can fit, I guess, anywhere on the bike, on your seat post under the top tube, to put a CO2 cartridge on.
Yeah.
And that's a super powerful magnet. In fact, this is how good it is. That's pretty good, isn't it? As far as magnets go. And another one. Yeah, powerful stuff. Now, there's a lot of different options of kit out there, and incidentally, these are available in the UK from Gone Biking Mad. There's going to be a link to them in the description, by the way, underneath. That's the same company that bring in the fork cork, which I also referenced in the video. Which actually, I think, although it doesn't work that well on my particular bike because of the length and the style of the steerer tube on there, it's a genius bit of kit. And I know people that store the bigger CO2 cartridges just clean on the inside of their head tubes with these. But yeah, nice bit of kit there. But another bit of news, and we didn't see this one coming, actually, is unusual news for us. Henry is actually moving on.
Yes.
Henry, what's going on?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
To be honest, Doddy, I've got no idea. So I'm going, basically, so COVID has thrown a massive curveball. There was a plan to go to South America, but we realised, me and my about half realised now that is getting increasingly unlikely that travel restrictions are going to be eased. So yeah, still haven't decided exactly where we're going, at least for the winter anyway, to kind of run to the mountains and hopefully get a bit of sunshine. But so I wish I could tell you. It's not me being coy. I don't know yet.
So travelling's been fairly high on the agenda from the beginning. You obviously, you went over to New Zealand, and your wife's from South America anyway to start with. So you kind of, I guess you wanted to look at going back that way?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just, it's funny because I think Bath isn't a big city. A lot of people would...
God, not by any means. No.
Yeah, would be like, you're joking. But to us, having spent so long living in the mountains and you know, we met in a town that has got probably about 20,000 people in. And that's where we've always lived. That we're just like...
So we're on about 100,000 odd here.
Yeah. And we're going to try and find a little hut somewhere in the mountains. And that'll be it really. And it's just, it's exciting. It's nerve-wracking. But I just want to say thank you to everyone, actually. And I really want to look forward to my last couple of weeks on the channel, because I'll be off at the end of the month. But it's been such an amazing year and a half, eh?
Dude, there's been a lot of stuff we've done, and loads of funny stuff that you've done as well along the way. And I'm sure the viewers are going to let us know your favourite moments. In fact, in the comments underneath this video, let us know what you loved seeing Henry doing since he's been here. And we'll get our creators to put together a cool little edit for your last show at the end of the month. How does that sound? 5
points for every time someone mentions that chili crash. We'll chalk them up.
You've gone and thrown the gauntlet there. No, but seriously, there's been a whole bunch of great content out there, from your ninja star throwing with that toe peak tool all the way through to your trailside tests. So, so let's have a look and see what you can come up with for Henry, and we're going to wish him well out on those trails.
So now it is time for the tech quiz, where I am inexplicably wearing a jumper. So the first question. Look have a long heritage in cycling, and their technology has left a large mark upon the sport. But which country does the company originate from? So which country is the company Look from? Now the second question, Sam Hill, who releases loads of signature gear from Nukeproof this week, is very famous in mountain biking. He's one of the most decorated mountain bikers of all time. But why isn't he at this weekend's racing in Italy in the EWS? So why isn't Sam Hill attending this round of the EWS? Now the last question, why were the Rocky Mountain freeride athletes back in the day known as the Fro Riders? So you'll have to tune in later on to get the answers for those questions.
Okay, now it's time for Top Mods, and I thought I'd show you a few cool things that I've been messing around with. Now, I guess you could say these fit a little bit more into the hacks and bodges section on Dirt Shed Show, but either way, they're all kind of cool things that are worth knowing about. Now, I made a video about all this stuff actually that you can see. The link is in the description underneath this. It went out at the weekend. Now, it's probably gone over the radar of a few of you here, but I thought I'd show you. So the first little cool thing I made was taking an old Ergon bar end plug, put some O-rings around it, and basically arrowdited on one of these tubeless plug tools. Now this particular tool has a little cover, so it lends itself really well to this. It doesn't get stuck or rattle. Now you could put this on the inside of your bars. I actually run a Ninja tool on the inside of mine, which is why, in fact, I think someone actually asked why I didn't do that. I actually run this on the inside of my XT crank. It fits completely flush and just goes inside, and I made it for stuff I've already had laying around, so it didn't cost me a penny. Now that's a pretty cool little mod. Now a few of you were asking how I mounted that bottle of wine to my down tube, and that was using one of these Fidlock products. Now we have referenced Fidlock before a few times on the tech show. They make the really cool water bottle system, they make the magnetic catches for your helmet, and they make this as well. It's kind of like a little cradle caddy. You can fit anything to it basically and secure that load, and then you can clip the whole thing straight onto your down tube or wherever you want to mount it. Ideal if you've got those annoying under down tube bottle cage mounts, you don't really want to put bottles, so you could put something else in them. For example, like this. Now this is, I call these caddies, they're essentially blank bottles. This is an old manky water bottle I had. I've cut it open, and with a little sandwich bag on the inside, I've got an inner tube, CO2 cartridge, and a little inflation tool and a tie lever. And it all goes straight inside there for a rainy day when I need it out on the trail. And with that little cool system from Fidlock, you could actually mount this in one of those annoying places, like under your bottom of your down tube there, in the dog egg zone where you don't really want your bottle of water, he says, and I've just messed it up. Like that. Really cool system, clips straight onto your bike and takes off again. Yeah, well, check them out. There's more details in the video. And the last one, I thought you'd appreciate this, was you know, I say you can fix most things in the world using gaffer tape or Gorilla Tape and cable ties. Well, this is a little saddlebag made entirely from Gorilla Tape. Super easy to make. It is virtually waterproof. It's good enough to carry what's in there. In this particular one, you named it. There's a little tubeless inflation canister in there, the little device that plugs to it, and the inner tube. In this case, it's got a tiny little Tubelito one in there, but super easy to make. And I've got loads of Gorilla Tape lying around, so it didn't really cost me anything. And I just use one of these little Velcro straps to put it underneath my saddle rail. Absolutely tiny, can go on any bike, and it cost me, again, almost nothing, because it's stuff I've got laying about the place. Definitely check that video out, and if you've got any great ideas like this, don't forget to send them in to us on Top Mods, or you can send them to the Dirt Shed Show on Hacks and Bodges. Okay, now this part of the show is called Rewind. This is where we look back or rewind back to where all the cool stuff came from. I had to start somewhere. Mountain biking once had some truly awful and hilarious products, but those in themselves are actually kind of cool because they gave birth to all this amazing stuff that we get to ride now. So if you've got anything old, anything retro, let us know. Let us know about the stuff. We want to tell the stories about it. And if you're not sure about some stuff, ask us questions as well. If you're going to ask us questions about old stuff, put them in the comments underneath there. Use that hashtag rewind so we can find them nice and easy. But better still, if you've got something, take some shots, use our uploader. There's a link at the bottom of the screen, and there's one you can click on in the description underneath. Now, first up this week, this is a blinding collection. So these are Trek Y bikes, and these are all from Las Vegas. So this is from Vincent. 3 Trek Y carbon frame classics with a Y50 museum piece. Now here we go, look at some of these shots on screen. Wow. Ultimate example of Trek Y bikes is the 1997 Trek Y50, the one in the middle here in the shot of 3. I wanted this bike since it came out, and I finally found one. This one's nearly mint as well, new old stock for a reasonable price. It may be one of the most beautiful paint schemes and bikes ever made. Do you know what? I do agree with you there. Like, although I've got massive issues with how the suspension worked on that bike. In fact, I did ride one in a video looking at old XTR versus new XTR. If you want to watch me riding that bike and scaring the life out of myself, have a look underneath. And there's a few shots whizzing by on screen of me on that bike. But I've always loved the form of it. The monocoque construction of the front end, the unified triangle, it just looks beautiful. But that's where it ended for me. You know, the looks were a lot better than how they actually rode. Now, if you don't know about unified bikes, essentially you've got a pivot in the middle of the frame. And the more important thing is your bottom bracket is part of the back end of the bike. So no matter what you're doing to pedals, you're not affecting the chainstay length, you're not affecting chain growth or anything like that. So it will pedal basically like a hardtail. The downside is the suspension works better when you're sat down than when you're stood up. Now you get different style bikes, you get the high pivot ones, in which case it only really works when you're sat down, and when you stood up it feels like more or less like a hardtail. And then some like the Trek Y bikes, where it's still a high pivot but much lower down, unlike the Klein versions like that old Mantra thing. Oh, that was awful. But kind of cool at the same time. I shouldn't slag it off because it is a pretty unique bike. But these ones had a slightly lower pivot, so suspension did work when you stood up, but it was a lot firmer than when you're sat down. But some people thought this was genius and truly loved it. And it became quite classic. So I can see why, Vincent, you actually love them. Just more pictures whizzing by on screen. And it's interesting to say that you got your first one. This is my first Trek Y and my first real mountain bike. I got it new in 1997. Yeah, so that's about the same date when I first saw, in fact, one of my friends had one of the early ones. It was, I forget which model, 22 I think it might have been. Just a black carbon front end, like raw carbon, and a polished silver rear end. Yeah, so yours is a Y11, so I think his might have been a 22. But yeah, great, look at this. Set them all up tubeless, hydraulic brakes, oval chainring, stealth dropper post, £24 single speed joy to ride. Of course, that's one of the beauty of these bikes, you can set them up single speed because that chainstay. Do you know what, that does appeal to me. Maybe you could convince me to like something like this again. Now, there's something about that, building sort of a modern classic out of a retro bike, turning it into a bit of a single speeder. That's kind of interesting. We've not done anything with single speeds yet. There's a thought. Hold that one fast. Yeah, I was going to say I thought I recognised the yellow one. But awesome. Yeah, and lovely to see that Y50 as well. I agree with you about the paint job. I think that is spectacular. And really cool to see like the original Manitou Mach 5 fork on there, the XTR. Lovely chain set on that. And the brakes, to be fair, most of it, you know, it's a really, really good example of a transmission. So cool that you've still got it in that colourway as well. Vincent, thank you for sending these in. All the images will have been on screen, hopefully by now, for everyone else to enjoy. But mega cool to see, and thank you for taking the time to photograph your fleet and send them to us. I'm just going to whiz by now because you sent like all the pictures in the world, and we're going to go on to a familiar one from, I think this was last week's show. So this is from Kona, it's from Adam in West Sussex, and the bike is his Kona Sex 1. So you might remember we put a bike on the show. He actually forgot that he sent those images in and he hadn't renovated it yet. So this is the image from last week that we ran. And now look what it looks like. So as you can see from the workbench here, he's totally stripped this thing down. I can see some metal polish there. I can see some brasso. I can see all sorts of different cleaning products there. So you've really gone to town on this to get this thing looking brand new. I can see all the mess on the floor coming off the bike as well. You've really gone to town on it. Yeah, oh my God, look at the difference at the front end now. Wow. I hope that's not your little workshop chair. Probably break under weight if you, wouldn't it? That's obviously for the future generation mountain biker in the house. Looking cool. Yeah, and there you go. Now look at it. Look what a lovely job you've done on that. That looks formidable. New graphics, proper polished up front end on there. That's almost like new old stock. You've done a wicked job on it, Adam. Lovely to see. I've polished the frame, repainted the rear triangle, swapped out the wavy shifters. I think you said you were going to do that before. Excuse me. For the XT Rapid Fires. Put the bar brace back on. Yep, that's cool. V12 flats, new chain cables, and bar ends with fire. Yeah, fair enough. Have a little dance around them, I hope. And I'm going to reattach the crud catcher next. Great bike to ride, transports me back to the 90s, and I plan on using it in anger with the rest of the fleet. Well, job well done there, Adam. And thank you for watching the show, acknowledging that you're on the show, and sending more pictures in. This is great. I love you guys and girls, all of you. I think it's amazing that we've got a genuine community that bats stuff back and forwards. This is great. I'm just going to show the rest of your pictures off. That's a lovely picture, actually, by the way. Oh yeah, there you go. And there's the side-by-side shots, or one above the other. I've got to say, even though it looks much better now, you've cleaned it up with those new graphics that kind of match in with the ACS 33s and that. I kind of did like the old banana yellow style graphic. I know it didn't match with the rest of the stuff on your bike, only matched that root stem, but I kind of quite liked it. But hey, it looks much better now. You've done a great job overall. Looking cool. Hey, you should give those pedals a service. They were probably the best Shimano SPD pedals available at the time. Really, really cool. The rotating middle on them. Wicked stuff. Okay, now last up, wow, look at this one all the way from Poland from Matches. It's a Scott downhill bike. This is an Octane. So Scott have made just about every incarnation of crazy weird stuff over the years. And they used to make the bike that had 2 shocks. They made the one that had a big moto seat on it, and they've got this one. So it's a downhill World Cup. My friend recently purchased this beast of a bike. I don't have many pictures because he's repainting it, and I've only got this one of it before, but when he finishes, I'll send it in after. Yes, please do. We'd love to see what a job he's done of it. So he got the bike for equivalent of about 200 quid. That's an absolute bargain. Dude, that's probably like, what, 3 or 4 grand in its day. Mavic D-Max wheels, Monster T-forks on the front there. Huge race face chainring and crank combo. Don't know what the pedals are, I can't see those. It looks like it's could be a RockShox rear shock, it might just be a red spring on there. But yeah, very cool to see. Yeah, 46 tooth chainring. Man, you could do some damage with that thing. Very cool. Love it. Thank you, awesome everyone, for sending in some great shots. Keep them coming. We love this stuff. And like I said, if you want to ask us questions about old stuff, there's enough old stuff floating around to ask about. If I just see if I can zoom out. Oh, the other way. We've got the old Sean Palmer up there. We've got the Tioga disc drive clock. You might be able to just see that in the frame. We've got some Tomac stuff going on. We've got Repack. If you're not aware of what Repack is, there's a whole story to tell you about that. We've got some mint sauce, fat tire flyer. We've got loads of old stuff lying around, and we love our old stuff. So get involved in the comments, and we'll tell you some stories. See you later.
Now it is time for the tech quiz answers. So the first question, where are Look from? And it is, of course, France. So Look actually took a lot of the technology from ski bindings into road bike pedals and kind of changed the sport in a massive way, and that was in the mid-80s. Now the second question, why is Sam Hill missing out on this weekend's racing? And it is, of course, Sam has decided to sit out the 2020 season due to the transmission risk of COVID. Obviously Australia being a long, long way from Europe. Now the third question, why was it the Rocky Mountain Throw Riders? And it's because another company back in the day, Cannondale, basically thought they had the trademark or the legal rights to use the name Free Riders, and they tried to prevent anyone else from doing so. So, tongue-in-cheek way around it, Rocky Mountain named their Free Riders the Throw Riders, and the rest, as they say, is history. Now, thank you very much for watching this week's GMBN Tech Show. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel, and get in the comments below what were your favourite moments of yours truly making a bit of an idiot of himself. I'm sure there are plenty. Thanks guys, and we'll see you next time.